Hello, welcome to RC Video Reviews. It is Saturday, September 2nd. Already in football season, man. It's all happening. I love football season. We got to sit in the rain for about 2.5 hours last night, and it came down pretty steady, so kind of cool. That's football. Anyway, welcome to RC Video Reviews. We have some things to cover tonight. We've got some cool stuff to talk about, and I've got some projects that I'll show you that I'm working on, and of course, we can talk a little bit about FMS. We have a lot happening. Looks like Freddie got back on top on the first game, but you know, Shane's out tonight, Fred, so I'm not buying it, man. It's what do they call that in the fighting scenarios? It's not uncontested. So that was an uncontested taking of the title. So I think I want to wait and see until, you know, people are here before I think that Fred's back on top again. I'm not sure, man. It says Fast Freddy, but I still say it's kind of mid-speed Freddy. Anyway, hey, Jeff, how you doing? Glad you could make it. D. Griffiths says hello. How you doing? Johan Opperman, he says, you guys are fast. I'll have to watch tomorrow. And it's because he's in South Africa. It's 5 hours ahead over there, I think. 5 or 6. Bill is here. Freddie. Should I call you Quick Draw McGraw? Elias is here. How you doing, Elias? Glad you can make it. Mantis09 says, hello, pilots. And FL Engineer says, Freddie's new man. Yeah, that's right. Fred's out of the hospital. He's back on top again, and hopefully he's going to be on the road to recovery and getting back out of the field just as soon as possible. Stephen Cristofero is here. Good evening to all from Southeast Michigan. William Tam is here. Hello. The David Knutz from the great state of Texas. And that's it, man. It's quiet night tonight, huh? Slow night tonight on the Pilot Jam. Anyway, Saturday night, I guess people are off doing stuff. That's the way it is. Well, let's cover the weekend review, and we'll start off by talking about that little gem over there. I want to start by saying that that video was sponsored. The OMP-M4 was a sponsored video by Buddy RC, and during the initial maiden, I had a problem, a mechanical problem that caused me to crash the plane, the helicopter, and it took me a little while to get some spares, but I ordered spares. And then once I thought I had it ready to go again, we took it out of the field and I found another problem. So I had to go order more spares and get it repaired. And finally, you know, we got it up in the air and flying. And that was also a conversion for me from Icon. The only fly barless I had any real experience with was Icon. And then I switched over to Spirit because I wanted to give those GPS modes a go. So it was just one thing that led to another. And all I can say is we finally got the thing flying. We got the GPS modes working. And so far I'm enthused with what I learned. Now I do plan on getting that helicopter out and flying it some more and trying to like aggressively test the recovery modes. Like this, the initial testing in that video, we were kind of like being a little ginger with it because I wanted to make sure that it worked in the first place. You don't want to put it in a bad attitude and like plow it into the ground and then have it impact the ground and say, huh, I guess it doesn't work. That's not the way you want to go about things. So in this case, what I wound up doing was just kind of gingerly hitting the hard deck and trying position hold and things like that. And it did work. So the next steps and the next phases of this are to get out and actually fly it, maybe be a little bit more aggressive, hitting the hard deck and trying to see just how effective the modes are in crash recovery. So, or I shouldn't say crash recovery. It's crash prevention. That's what we're looking for, is crash prevention. So anyway, thanks to Buddy RC. They were very, very patient about the whole thing. They didn't actually bust my chops at all. You know, I ordered all my spares from them and they were very cool about the whole deal. So I was really glad that they were polite and pleasant about allowing me the time I needed to get that video done. But anyway, it got done. And so far, you know, the outside of the GPS modes, I can tell you that the M4 flies quite well. And the Spirit FBL seems to me to be pretty good. So a little bit of tweaking and tuning. And then, I want to give a shout out to Rob too. Rob was very helpful in helping me kind of dial in some of the settings to get it where we needed. And of course, Fred, you know, Fred's always a fountain of information when it comes to getting helicopters tuned in. So Fred was very helpful as well. So anyway, that's it on the M4, and more to come on that one, because I think that one really opens the doors for people to get into helicopters. And the more information I can put out there about how this system works, I think the more approachable it becomes. I have been asked a couple of times for my configuration, and I will share it. I have no problem doing that, but I want to make sure it's right first. So you know, before I put it out there and make it available, I want to do a little bit more testing. So I hope you guys understand that. You know, that's just me, not trying to protect you, but if I'm going to put a product out, I want to make sure it's as good as I can make it. And so that's the idea. I'll do a little bit more testing before I share my configuration. But once I do my testing and I get things tuned the way I want them, I will share the setup for Spirit and the radio in Discord. So it'll be there if you're interested in that setup. The next video was the FMS Fox, the 2300 millimeter Fox first look. That's a cool little plane. I hope to get to fly that on Sunday or Monday. So tomorrow or Monday. I think we should be able to do some filming on Monday, so keep an eye on the channel for that. And, you know, we'll talk a little bit about the Fox later in the show. I've got some things to talk about with FMS, but that's a pretty neat looking airplane. And what I really liked about it, I think one of the most attractive things to me about that plane was just how much space there was inside the canopy. So if you do want to do FPV, add a flight computer or, you know, other electronic telemetry gear, whatever, there's room in there to do that. It's not like these really skinny gliders like the Consendo where it's really tight in there. Not to throw shade at the Consendo. That's a great airplane, but, you know, this one has room for gear. You know, that's the point. And so anyway, that's an interesting airframe. We'll get that one flown soon and hopefully get some video on that on the channel. But the FMS Fox, nice looking airplane. And then next up, we did the video on the ER6 and how to flash the ER6 with a dongle. All I can say on that one is the guys on Discord, one of the Express LRS developers told me about the parts you needed to make the dongle. I don't know why Radio Master doesn't include that one in the kit. I guess to keep expenses down. You know, if you're dealing in thousands of something, even adding a nickel changes the cost model, I guess. But anyway, and of course, Wi-Fi for some people works, and Wi-Fi is a good usable solution. But in my case, anytime I have issues with Wi-Fi, I revert back to flashing via dongle, and that's why I always want to have that dongle method working. So, and then the other thing about that video too is that you can make your own cables to connect via CRSF to different devices without soldering if you want. So you can make a pin connector if you want, and so that's very useful on that front. So that was the video on how to flash the ER6 and ER8. The one thing I do want to point out about that, because someone left a comment, you know, I'll save it for the Q&A. We'll cover it in the Q&A. So that was it for that one. And then I did the Futura Sport. Boy, that's a cool jet. That was today. I actually put that video out today. The Futura Sport 64 millimeter. All I could say about that one from the start is that for a 64 millimeter jet, I'm kind of impressed because it looks like it's got some chops. Like it's going to be very visible. It's kind of big for a 64 millimeter. I'm hoping the power is there. A lot of times on those 64 millimeter type EDFs, I'm not, you know, the power, I'm always kind of skeptical. So we'll see. I want to see how it does. I've got my fingers crossed that the power is there and that the battery life is there or the flight time is there on that plane, because I think if the power is there and you can get, you know, 4 to 5, maybe 5 to 6 minutes of flight time out of that one, that's going to be a very, very popular EDF. I think that one has some real potential to make a splash out there in the market. So very cool looking jet. And we did get a chance to see a much larger scale version of that plane flying at Jets over Lakeland, which was very cool. So anyway, that's it. And then the PilotJam, of course. So only 5 videos this week. Sorry, it was a light week. We didn't do one a day. Only 5 videos. So that's it. I don't see any questions. I've been watching. David says, send some rain, my buddy. Yeah, my way. Yeah, I know. We get the rain, believe me. It's been pretty constant here lately. Bradley Norton says, good morning here. Just woke up. Okay, well, good morning, Bradley. Glad you could make it. Rambo Flight Ken is here. How you doing, Rambo Flight Ken? And Mark says, I now realize why I was so confused about the S-Bus cable as my ER6 did not come with one. Yeah, I've heard that. I can tell you in my review samples, I did not get that cable. So that's another cool thing about the kit that I showed you in that video is that you can make your own S-Bus cable if you want. So very cool little kit to have if you're using the ER6 stuff. Okay, that's it for the week in review. I don't see any other comments, so let's trudge on with some material. Oh, the big news, right? EdgeTX 2.9 final is released. And if you guys haven't done it yet, you can probably go ahead and safely upgrade, because all I can say so far, let's bring the big camera up. all I can say so far is as far as I'm concerned, they've got a pretty darn good track record of not releasing a final until it's been ready. So I went ahead and flashed my production radio. This is 2.9.0. So I put that on my production radio today, and I'm looking forward to flying with it. I think what I really like about it is it kind of brings the whole GUI back together. It unifies it. So it's no longer broken like halfway through where you see the new format and the old format. 2.9 now has the whole UI unified again, which is really very cool. So I'm excited about that. And congratulations to the EdgeTX team. Those guys work amazingly hard on bringing us a really cool firmware for these radios. So I want to say congratulations to the EdgeTX team. Thanks for putting that out there. And I guess at this point, it's safe to go ahead and put 2.9 on your radio, because they had a fairly lengthy release candidate 1 and release candidate 2. I mean, they were out there for a couple of weeks, maybe, I don't know, 8 weeks. It's been a while since 2.9 release candidate 1 was dropped. So anyway, it's time, and I'd say it's probably safe to go ahead and make the change if you're interested in 2.9. So anyway, congratulations to the EdgeTX team for getting 2.9 out the door. I'm looking forward to flying with that one on my radios. Okay, next up, the guys on Discord were messing around. Tim actually brought this up. So they were messing around with a bat check widget, and I did put a link in the description for you. It's by Offer Shmuley. It's a bat check widget, and I actually put it on my radio. It's right here, and I thought I'd give you guys a look at it. They were kind of working on the HV, the high voltage version of the bat check widget. So here's what we're gonna do. I'll just give you a quick look at it. It's kind of a let's see. HSpeed Jeff says, can you go directly to 9 from 7X? No. Well, yes, you can. As long as you're on YAML. As long as you have YAML. The one big thing about making the conversion, Jeff, is that they took the binary to YAML conversion process off of the radio. That's no longer part of the radio. So if you are using binary model files, you have to use another mechanism, like first flash from whatever you're on to something like 2.8 and then flash to 2.9. But if your radio is already using the YAML format, yes, you can go straight from, say, 2.7 to 2.9. And I believe 7 does use the YAML format, so you shouldn't have any problems doing that. Okay, anyway, back to the bat check widget. This is just a cool little widget that's out there, and I've known about it for a while. I haven't really used it. I haven't really paid much attention to it, but they were monkeying around with it, and I saw it. I'm like, people might like to see that one. So here's the environment. I've got an Express LRS receiver with VBAT. This is just an EPW6 connected to an ESC. That's all I've got here. So I'm just going to slide the radio up there so you guys can see what I'm doing. And all I'm going to do is connect a battery to it. And I'll take my lead, my VBAT lead, and I'm going to plug it into the positive end of my balance connector like that. All right, so just the positive end. This is how I do it in my planes, by the way. And then I'm going to plug in the receiver. And when we do that, we should see telemetry pop in fairly quickly. So there we go. We've got our connection. And there's the little bat check widget. And the cool thing about that is that, of course, you can use the telemetry anywhere you want in your logic, right? But this is a nice little widget. It's kind of you can do a full screen version. And I think they have smaller iterations. I haven't tried. We could try if you guys want to look. But it's just this nice little battery meter, and it does some cool things like auto detect your cell count. So I happen to know this battery is at 3.9. I know that. And it detected that it is a 3 cell. And it's got the minimum voltage set at 11.7. which is where I am right now. It's recording the min value, and it's showing me about 61% full. So if you're interested in this one, the link is in the description, and it's a standard widget install. All you have to do is download the zip file and unpack the widgets, copy the widgets folder into your widgets folder on your SD card, and you'll have access to it. And then I'll show you to add it real quick. I'm going to hit the telemetry page. We'll add a quick little page. In fact, I wanted to see if it does a smaller view. So let's try that. We'll just hit setup widgets, and I'll click on this little open spot, and we'll add bat check in there. And I'm going to make the color black. Yellow, I don't like the way yellow looks on text. So we'll do a dark color. We'll hit save and back out of it. And if you do that one, it looks like you don't get the battery meter. You just get the text. So I guess you have to have one of the bigger screens in order to get the meter. Let's see what happens if we use a 1x2. I'm just having an experiment. You know, that's another thing. We could turn some of this stuff off too. Let's turn off the flight mode, sliders, trims, and then we'll do setup widgets and try bat check again, and we'll see what happens. So bat check, we'll change the color to black so you guys can see it. Hit save and then back out. And what do we got here? Oh, it says 0 volts. I'm not sure why. Oh, you know what? I didn't pick the right sensor. That's what it was. You got to pick the right sensor. You got to, under widget settings, you got to pick the sensor. I forgot about that. So we'll go down to RxBat. And we'll just scroll down a little bit here. RxBat. There we go. That's my sensor. And we'll back out again and we'll see. Uh-oh, what's going on here? Why am I not getting my voltage on that sensor? Let's turn the radio off and see what happens. Yeah, I know. Let's shut down. Turn it back on. Kind of surprised that I didn't see that on the screen there. Well, offer. I know he watches these videos, so there it is. I'm not sure why it's not doing it. Let's just check the widget settings one more time. Setup widgets and widget settings, and I have RxBat selected. So let's see if I have, I know I can see the telemetry right there. That looks like a bug to me. That looks like a bug. That's what happens on live shows. You find stuff like this. So we do have RxBat, right? There's RxBat. It says 11.7. Interesting. Let's try and add, let's go back. I'm going to add the full screen one again. We'll see what happens. We'll just make it full screen. We'll turn all this other stuff off. Let's set up widgets, select widget, bat check, and we'll do color. Maybe I wonder if it's not doing it because I have another widget instance installed. Because now this one's doing the same thing. Look at that. No data. No data. Interesting. Let's go back in here. Let's go back. Whoops. Let's go back in here and we'll move that screen and see what happens. We'll just hit remove. Remove. We'll kill screen 3. That's the original one. And then we'll go into setup widgets again, and I still don't see it. I'm going to turn the radio off again. Nothing there. Oh, we'll shut it off. And I'm going to also unplug just for the sake of being thorough. I'll unplug it. I'm sure Offer will leave a comment and let us know what I'm doing wrong here. But when I added the first one, it actually, yeah, that's not working either. Interesting. What's going on here, man? What's going on here? I tried to show you guys something cool. Widget settings. I don't have the sensor selected again. Did I forget to do it the first time? Let's try it again. Come on. RxBat. RxBat, where are you? There it is. It's scrolling a little bit slow. A little choppy. Okay, shadow, lowest cell. Okay, I'll turn that off too. Nothing. Interesting. All right, I'm going to try one other thing just for the sake of completeness, and then I'll leave it to Offer to come in and figure out what the heck is happening here. I'm just going to remove that screen altogether. Now, I shouldn't be pulling that widget from anything right now, so I don't have that widget in use at all. No, it's gone. So we'll hit telemetry. I'm going to add a page, add a main view. I'm going to do it just like I did the first time. We'll select the full screen. I'm going to turn all this stuff off. We'll hit setup widgets, click this, select widget. Is it bat check or bat analog? It's bat check. And I'm going to set the sensor. I don't know what's going on with this. It worked perfectly the first time I added it, and for some reason now I'm struggling. I'm sure I will point to Offer and let him know about this because I'm not sure what's happening here or why it's not being detected. So we'll set the color again. This is all I did the first time. And then we'll exit out, and I still see nothing. Nothing. Look at that. We'll shut it down one more time. If it doesn't work after this, I'm just going to move on. But anyway, at least you got to see it in the initial part of it. Yeah, there's nothing coming in there. I don't see telemetry up top. There's the telemetry up top. Telemetry up top is there. I see RxBat right there. It's right on that screen, but I'm not seeing it here. I don't know. Something's wrong. Something's wrong with that Offer. I wonder now. I gotta tell you, I hate letting stuff beat me like this. Let's try a different screen altogether. we'll go ahead and switch over to this one. And I have internal turned on. Okay, so that's working. Let's see if I have telemetry. We'll discover new. The receiver is not bound yet. Let's try it again. I just have to rebind the receiver. Boy, this is like watching paint dry. There we go. Okay, so now I've got RxBat is there again. This is a new model. So I'm going to back out. And I only have 2 pages here, so let's just try it one more time. I'm going to add one more try, one more college try. Add main view. I'm going to set it to full screen, set up widgets, select widget. You know what? I'm going to turn all this other stuff off because I don't want that to be the problem. So set up widgets, select widget, bat check. We'll set the color to black. We'll set the sensor. Well, this is unfortunate. Lowest cell, lithium ion. I don't see it changing the values. I'm watching the flashing in the background. I don't see it changing anything. I don't know. I'm going to call Uncle at this point. Anyway, we'll get it worked out. Maybe Offer will come in and let us know what happened. I was kind of hoping to show you something cool, but at least you saw it initially, and it did actually work the first time I set it up. So maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm just doing something wrong and I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing anything in comments here. Nope, nothing in comments. You guys aren't stepping in going, hey, dummy, you're doing this wrong. So I'm not sure. Widget settings, lowest cell, lithium ion. I don't know, man. I'm not seeing it. I wonder if I'm on the wrong widget. Did I do the wrong widget? Remove widget. Let's try this. Select widget. There's bat check. No, is that the wrong? That's the same one. Remove widget. Select widget. Bat analog. Oh, oh man. It was bat analog. I see it now. Was that the problem? Oh boy. Was it bat analog? I thought it was called bat check. Boy, don't I feel like a knucklehead now. RxBat, we'll change the color back to black. Save. And we'll back out. There we go. Odd. Okay, that's embarrassing. 3.9 volts. I guess that's showing the lowest cell. That's what that option was. So if you do widget settings, total voltage, you hit total voltage, and then it shows you the pack voltage. Well, that's better. At least we figured that out. See, you got to be persistent with this stuff. Okay, now that we've got that figured out, John, let's try one of the smaller ones. Let's try one of the smaller ones again. All right, widget settings. Oh, I have to change the screen. So we're going to change the screen format this time. We'll try this one. Set up widgets. Select bat analog. Change this to black. They look a lot alike, don't they? That's what got me. I forgot the name. They look almost identical. I just want to see if it shows the meter on a smaller screen. That's all. So you don't have to burn a whole screen for it. Total voltage. Oh, there you go. Yeah. So it shows the whole thing. Although it says 100, it says 100. Maybe that's just a display example. Let's get out of the edit screen. And okay, it's showing me 100 volts at 100%. It's always something, isn't it? Okay. Anyway, you guys get the idea. Check it out. That's called Bat Analog, and the link is in the description for these widgets. That's it. I'm done messing around with it on camera. We'll move on to the next subject. So thanks, Offer, for putting that out. I don't know what that's all about, the 100 volts. maybe you can help us out. I'm not sure what's happening there, but maybe a little advice in the comments would be helpful. All right, next up, ESC failure. I did want to talk to you guys about something I had for the first time in my flying career. I've been flying electric for a long time, and I've always, I don't want to say I laugh at the IC guys when they dead stick, because I don't think damaging models is funny at all. I don't find any amusement in seeing a damaged model or somebody that's having a hard time at the field. I don't find any humor in that. So I don't make fun of people or anything like that. But I have historically been able to say that I have never had to dead stick a model, an electric model, with a motor problem. The motor's always worked. Well, I was out flying last weekend, no filming. It was just I was just flying out with my 85-inch extra NG, and while I was flying, I did a maneuver and I went to hit the throttle, no throttle. Now, fortunately, since I had my controls connected to a separate flight pack, I was able to maintain control. So I did get the airplane down with no damage. I did if I must pat myself on the back, it was a beautiful dead stick landing, but it was the first time ever that I've had a dead stick an electric model with no motor. So little unfortunate there, but what I would tell you guys is that after that happened, I got the plane on the ground. I went through, the batteries were connected, the linkages were connected, the XT90s were all connected. Everything was right where I left it. It wasn't like something happened where I saw an obvious disconnect or an obvious power problem. So I wound up unstrapping the batteries, moving them back, disconnecting everything. And the first time I reconnected, it still didn't work. The second time I reconnected, it did. So I did end up flying it again, which probably wasn't all that bright. But I figured, well, I'm just going to fly back and forth. And if I have to dead stick again, I will. I wasn't going to do any aggressive maneuvers or anything low to the ground. So I did fly back and forth, and I did get it back on the ground without any further issue. However, with that in mind, once I have a failure like that, that's it. I'm certainly not going to trust an expensive airplane like that to an ESC that has failed for whatever the reason. So I went out and I talked to Rob, and Rob pointed me toward these ETWs, which I was aware of. Altitude Hobbies sent me this one. It's not sponsored. I paid for it, but I got it from Altitude Hobbies. And this is the new Mantis G2 160 amp. This one is not an opto ESC though. This one has a BEC and it goes up to 8.4 volts. So I did want to share it with you guys and show you that I'm making a change. The Fly Fun, it's the Hobby Wing Fly Fun Opto ESC. That's the one that failed. So that one's going to be coming out. And I did want to show you guys the ZTW G2. This will be the one that'll be going in its place. And again, this one has a BEC if I want to use it. And of course it's programmable. It's got the fan. One thing I thought was really interesting, and I wrote to Altitude Hobbies about this when I opened it up, this was it. The ESC came out pretty much the way you see it and the instructions, and that was it. There were no bullets, which on most of these ESCs, most ESCs these days, they do include the bullets. There were no bullets in the box and no connectors, which that's fine. I'm used to not seeing a connector, but I was really surprised there was no heat shrink and no bullets. So I actually wrote to Altitude and said, hey, FYI, there was no connectivity in this box. And I actually went to the ZTW website and they showed that it came with bullets. So when I wrote them, they said, yeah, we got them. We notated that in our description. When I went back and read, they actually did notate it, that there were no connectors, none. I didn't even think to read that because I don't remember the last time I bought one of these higher end ESCs, bigger ESCs that did not come with bullets. So at any rate, if you go check these out, they said they think that I was the first one to get one of these from them, and they were aware, no bullets. So if you do get one, just be aware, you're going to have to go to Amazon and buy yourself some 5.5 mil bullets. I got those off Amazon.com. So you have to get those for yourself. And I just wanted to share that. Be on the lookout. I'll be letting you guys know, but here's the deal. That Fly Fun ESC, kind of along the lines of the B6 Neo. I don't know why it failed. I don't believe it was anything to do with my battery connections, my XT90s, my series connection, the batteries. It wasn't anything because I did plug it back in and it all worked. I did actually pull pretty hard on the wires to check and make sure it wasn't something in my linkage. I don't know what it was, but at the end of the day, it's not an ESC that I'll fly with anymore. On that particular model, I'm not trying to throw Fly Funds under the bus. I'm saying on that plane, that model, that ESC, that's out of here. I don't trust it anymore, and it's out. So that's it. Switching over to a Mantis G2, and we'll give these a try. And the one thing I'm going to say about this is that electronics don't get a vote. So if it's supposed to work and it's plugged in and it's got power, it doesn't really get a vote. And if it does conduct its own vote, think twice about using it. That's all I'd say. I'm pretty deterministic about electronics. I don't like them to have a point of view. right, I'm going to check comments. Bradley, I think that they come with EdgeTX now. I'm not sure which, configured. Will it come with OpenTX? Oh, yeah. The TX16S Mark II definitely comes with Edge. Yeah, for sure. It says it's 1S. Oh, did I miss the 1X? Okay, 1S. I'll mess with it later. Anyway, it works. It works. Haha, you selected RQOI as the source. Always, man. RQOI. Oh, was that it? Was RQOI the source? Oh, now I got to look. Bryce says I had RQOI the source, which is why it said 100%. Is that what I did? All right. You get a little flustered working on this stuff sometimes. Let's try it. Let's see. Oh, it is. He's right. It did say RQOI. Damn it. All right. Widget settings, RQOI. He's right. He caught it. RxBat. There it is. Okay. Let's plug it back in and see. Let's see what it does. Bryce spotted it. RQOI is the source. And we'll see what happens here. If we get a bind, there's a bind. Yeah, he was right. Brian nailed it, man. Thanks, Brian, for helping me out. Appreciate it. Yeah, so that was me selecting the wrong sensor. How about that? Big surprise. So there you go, back to 11.7 volts. And you do get the little meter. So it works. I'm going to turn the screen down a little so you can see a little better. But the meter does work on just half the page. So you can do that. Very cool. Thanks, Brian. Thanks for the catch, man. Appreciate it. All right. We'll go ahead and shut that off and move on. RQOI is the source. I guess I'm addicted to that RQOI, man. I inspect RQOI. It's one of my favorite numbers because on Express LRS, it's always good. All right, let's see. Let's get back to the desktop and we'll get moving on to what's next. So ESC failure. Just remember, guys, when it comes to electronics don't get a vote. If it's not predictable and doesn't do what you think it's supposed to do, make sure that you inspect, right? Don't just say, to hell with it. It's fine. No. Because there's Murphy's Law. If something can go wrong, it will at the worst possible time. I was very lucky when that ESC failed that I wasn't doing something, low to the ground or, inverted knife edge or something like that. I was lucky. So after that, I did fly it again, but I was flying left and right at a very high altitude, just back and forth. So I knew I could dead stick it if I had to. So anyway, there's that. We'll move on. All right, FMS. Oh, I wanted to talk a little bit about FMS. And, this is just one of those deals where every now, all I want to do is give FMS a little bit of props. And the reason I want to do it is because first off, they ran the beginner plane series, which we did, and they sent a ton of equipment to the channel, which I reviewed and did the videos on, and they took the good with the bad. When I kind of smashed that F-16 a little bit, they understood. She said, just be fair. That's all we ask. So I have a lot of respect for that comment. And I did try to be fair. I did try to give the good with the bad. And of course, in that scenario, that F-16, it flew okay, but the ground handling was pretty bad. Everything else, I tried to be fairly objective, but they made a real investment in the channel, not just in the channel though. It wasn't just about the channel. It was about getting information out to you guys. And then now they're doing it again. We don't have an event per se, but they've sent me 3 more planes. I got the Futura, did the video. I did the Fox, got that video, and I've got 1 more in the box ready to go. I'm going to be doing that video soon. But I just wanted to kind of give them a little bit of a shout out. And by the way, not only are they doing the equipment and putting the equipment in the review system here at the channel, but they're also adding coupon codes and discounts for you guys as well. And on top of all of that, in addition to what they're doing just for their marketing purposes through the channel, which is, let's face it, they're getting the word out, but that's the way YouTube works. That's the way all of them do things these days. You know what I mean? So my job is to present it in the most objective fashion that I can, and I try and do that. But in addition to that, they also supported EdgeTX Fest, and they sent the EdgeTX team airplanes that they can use for demo and for giveaway for prizes for the EdgeTX Fest. So I just wanted to take a minute and give them a little bit of a shout out, because that's the kind of stuff that I really appreciate. Because you guys know, for me, it's about community. We all need to try and help each other out the best we can and be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And I got to give them props for trying to do that. They're trying to engage the review channels, and they're taking the good with the bad. They're providing lots of equipment. And they're also, in addition to the review process and the marketing, they're also engaging the other parts of the community, like the developers, and sponsoring events like EdgeTX Fest, which is community oriented. So I just wanted to give them a thumbs up. You know, no, that's unsolicited. I got nothing out of that other than to let you guys know that when I see a company trying to do the right stuff, I'm going to tell you that too, right? That's part of the gig. Is that if I see it going the right way, I have to say something about it. Just like if I see it going the wrong way, I have to say something about it. So I just wanted to give them a moment in the spotlight to let you guys know. So far, I've been impressed with them. And it's not just because they're sponsoring the channel with stuff. It's because I think they're trying to do the right things right. And for me, that means a lot. That's all. Okay, next up, the discharger. I'm going to check comments. Brian says beautiful. Thanks for the catch again, man. That was very good. That's why I replaced the stock Gooski at Fly Barless. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why. Whoa. I just tried to drop my radio on the floor. That was bad. Hey, before I get into the next subject, I did want to show you guys something that was kind of cool. I always talk about my stash, and one of the things about my stash is it seems like no matter what I go for, especially when it comes to screws, that I never have the right thing. So I wanted to give you guys a funny little anecdote. Today was one of those days where I was working on a project and I went in my stash and I actually found the right stuff. That's when you know you've arrived. When you've arrived, you can go to your stash and you can find the screws and nuts and cables and connectors and pigtails and resistors and electronics that you're looking for. That's when you know you've got a pretty good stash. All I can tell you, man, is that this was, I was so surprised that I had the right equipment for this. It just kind of blew me away because I never have the right equipment. Anyway, I did want to give you guys, this is a preview look at something I'm working on. And I have two of these in mind, and I'm actually thinking about making these kits and putting them together and selling them on the Etsy store with all the parts you need to do your own. But if you know anything about electronics at all, you know what this is. It's a discharger. And this particular discharger, all I've done is I found some metal encased fans. These are metal heat sinks. They're attached to a couple of resistors, and the bottom is also a fan. And then I've got a couple of wires coming out the side. I did get a step-down converter. The idea is to wire the power from the discharge process into the converter and then output it to the fan so I can give at least peak voltage, no more than the peak voltage of the fans that they need. And so this is one example of one of them that I have in mind. This is just a quick little discharger. It's not done yet. Obviously, it's not done. I still have a little bit more work to do. And then the other thing that I'm working on is a much bigger one. So I want to bring up a little screen and share something with you guys so you can see it. I've got this little calculator. I actually put this together some time ago. And I've got this little calculator. And what this little calculator does, it lets you go in and plug in the number of resistors that you want to use. In my case, I'll say 6. And then the value, the ohm value of the resistors. In my case, these are 8 ohm resistors. And the watt rating of your resistor. And what this does then is it gives you an idea of what that discharger will be capable of based on the voltage levels that are used on the discharger. So in my case, in this particular scenario, if I do the 6, that's the one I have planned, 6 resistors, 6 resistors, 8 ohms, 100 watts each, that should give me at 25 volts, 18.9 amps and 476 watts, along with the cooling necessary to do the job. So this little calculator, I will put a link to this in the description so you can download it if you want. And you can come in and tinker and say, well, what if I only use 5 resistors? Or what if I only use 4 resistors? And you can see what will happen is it'll calculate your amperage. So if you're using a 6S battery, it'll calculate your amperage and your wattage for the discharger. So I will continue to work on this design. I just got the parts and I'm still waiting for some stuff. I don't have everything that I need to finish it yet. I'm still waiting for I bought a large heat sink that'll take 6 of these so I can lay 6 of them down. And I'm still waiting for that to show up. And then anyway, so the fans, the idea is that we'll be connecting the fans to a voltage controller. For this particular design, I think this voltage controller is too big. I'll be looking for a smaller one. And we'll connect the fans there. And then we connect these in parallel and we run them to leads that go to the battery. So, and I also will be adding, the reason I'm doing this is because I found out that when you have an iCharger X6, there's a mode on the iCharger X6 called extra discharge. And what that means is when you plug a resistive load in parallel with your battery. So if I wanted to discharge, say, this battery, and I plug this resistive load in line in parallel with the battery, so the ground will go straight through to the iCharger, straight through. The red will stop here on this pin and carry over to this pin and go back to the discharger. When you do that in parallel, you can dump a battery pack, depending on your resistive load, up to like 30 amps with the iCharger as the controller, and you can plug your balance lead into the iCharger as well. So I don't know about you guys, but the reason that's cool to me is because I fly a lot of 6S 5000s. And when I come home, if they're still at, 4 volts or 3.9, it takes me a while to discharge that with an FD200, which can only go up to like 200 watts. So that's why I'm doing this. I kind of wanted to build like a Mac Daddy discharger on a budget. Now the budget part, the X6, that's a little spendy, but you don't have to have the X6. You could just connect a voltage alarm like one of the the cell balancers. You can plug one of those into the balance lead and just plug it into your discharger and wait for the balancer to alarm when you hit 3.8 volts. So I'll show a couple of different ways to do it when it's time, but I am working on a couple of different discharge options, and the idea is to make them compact and cheap. So keep an eye out on the channel for that. That's definitely something coming up, the little discharger that I'm working on here. A little one and a big one. There's going to be a Mac Daddy. You can bet on that. I'm going to put the Mac Daddy together. I'd love to see 12, 14 amps. It's 600 watts. I think the way I've got it designed right now, if I go back to my little calculator, I'll bring the workspace up a little bit. If I go back to my calculator, I put in, if I do 6 resistors, which is what I think I'm going to get, that should give me about 19 amps at 476 watts. So kind of cool. And I think you'll be able to make that all in for maybe 25 bucks, maybe 30 bucks if you don't use the iCharger. If you do use the iCharger as your controller, then you got to add 100 bucks because the iCharger X6 about 100 bucks, 109. Okay. So keep an eye out on the channel. That's coming up. I'm kind of excited about that one. All right, let's go back to the desktop. I'm going to check comments and then we will move on. Midwest RC, sorry I'm late. I know he was over at the races today. I hope you had a good time, Tim. The David Canute says 24 watching, 16 likes. Yeah, if you guys could hit the likes, that'd be awesome. That's awesome. Thanks for hitting the like whip, David. RTL Fasteners is awesome for putting your stash together. Yeah, you got to have the right connectors and screws, man. It's just always a thing. You got to have them. Bradley Norton says, liked on the phone and TV. Thank you, Bradley. Appreciate that. Wolfie's here. How you doing, Dave? Glad you can make it, man. Good to see you. Okay, let's see. What is next? Q&A. All right, we're going to go over to the Blackboard, and we've got Q&A. And, of course, the Q&A, you know how it is. I come in and I start fiddling with things, and my graphics get a little messed up and out of whack. There's Q&A. All right, let's hit a little bit of Q&A. If you've never seen this segment before, what I try and do is I get questions all throughout the week on the videos, and I try and go in and figure out, what people are asking. If I see something that looks like a good question that a lot of people would benefit from, or, that you guys can use to help answer questions in Discord, I like to cover them. So the first one that I got was from Luke312. And he says, hey, can I simply change the CC2250 module to the ELRS module? I'll tell you guys, I've kind of made my bones about this in the past. I do not like that CC2250 module because it's marketed as a multi-protocol module. And while technically true, it does support more than one protocol, it is not an NPM 4-in-1. And some people get a little confused about that. They see NPM and they're like, oh, that's the one to get. And oh, this one's cheaper. So they buy it. And then they get it and they realize, well, where's my DSM or where's my whatever? Where's my FlySky? And they don't have it. And the reason is because the 2250 only supports like 3 or 4 protocols, not many. So while technically it is a multi-protocol module, it's not the 4-in-1 MPM. That's why I don't like this thing. I hate it because people get confused about it. And honestly, for just a few dollars more, you get the 4-in-1. Just get the 4-in-1, man. You guys need to avoid buying that CC2250 and make sure you pay attention. Don't get suckered into that one. Just get the 4-in-1. If you need different protocols, get the 4-in-1. Like if all you're ever going to use is FreeSky D16 and whatever the other one is, hot or whatever, then fine. But that's a fairly constrained use case. Just get the 4-in-1. Just get the 4-in-1. Make sure that's the phrase you got to look for is the 4-in-1. So that's why I don't like that 2250 because I see it all the time. People are like, wait, how come I can't, it's because it's not really a 4-in-1 module. It is technically multi-protocol, but it's not 4-in-1. Okay, next up, this one. Let's see if I can get this resized correctly. So Larry Kung 39131, he says, your video is informative. I'm unable to set up flaps correctly. My flaps just become slightly delayed. And I said, use a 3-point curve. He says, thanks, I figured it out. Brian's going to love this one. Thank you, I figured it out. For some reason, I can't do it on channel 5. Okay, this is another one of these comments that comes up quite a bit. And let's clear up some, let's clear things up a little bit. On Express LRS and channel 5, outside of one mode specifically, and I know Brian knows what it is, you are binary on channel 5, which means you're either on or off. It's not proportional unless you're in 16 divided by 2 mode. If you're in 16 divided by 2, then channel 5 is proportional. If you're not in 16 divided by 2, channel 5 is not proportional. It's binary. This is another one that I see so many times in comments. People come in and they're like, well, I'm trying to use channel 5. And at the end of the day, they're not reading the book because it's in the book. It's in the wiki. It's not a secret. It should be pretty well known at this point. But if you guys are out there helping people on Express LRS and they say, hey, I can't get my stuff to work on Express LRS, it's either on or off, ask the question, are you using channel 5 and are you in 16 by 2 mode? Now, regardless of the whole arming, aux1, dynamic power, all of that stuff, this is out independent of that question. Now, whether or not you should be doing that, that's up to you to decide. I'm not going to get religious about that here, but the point is that I see this question come up quite a bit. Nothing works. I can't get my stuff to work. It only goes on or off. Ask the question. If you hear that binary thing, are you using channel 5 on Express LRS? Because chances are going to be really high that they are. And then you can either steer them the right way. You can say, hey, instead of using channel 5, why don't you try channel 6 or 7 or 8, or put it in 16.2 mode and be aware you're messing with your arming. You can do things like, for example, you can put your gear on channel 5 and that way you can have your gear go up and down, which is binary, and also have that work in conjunction with your arming. Okay. So there are options. If you have flaps either up or down and you only need up or down and not a mid flaps, you can put that on channel 5. So think about it in terms of binary, on or off. If you have something on your radio that needs to be on or off, like nav lights, put that on channel 5. Landing gear, put it on channel 5. There are options, right? That's the point. But ask the question, hey, are you using channel 5 and are you in 16 by 2 or not? And chances are you'll come up with the answer real quick if that's what's going on. Okay, since my graphics seem to like to jump around today, we'll go back and adjust that. There we go. Okay, this one is from Adam Gibson. He says, can you post your spirit settings to compare? What head speed are you flying at? The tail seems really locked in. Okay, this goes back to what I mentioned earlier. I will share my configuration. I'll answer the question about head speed. I'm at 24, 26, and 2800 RPM on the M4. I will post my configuration as soon as I'm convinced I'm happy with the full operation of the M4 configuration. So stand by, it'll come. Keep an eye on Discord. That's where it'll happen, and hang tight. I really want this one to work, and we're kind of working our way through the configuration right now. So we'll get there. It'll happen. It'll happen. I'll let you know what works, what doesn't work. And when I get it all worked out, configuration will be posted. All right. Number 4, this one's from Donald Sneffy. Donald Sneff. I'm not sure. Unfortunately, this is not the first one. My B6 Neo stopped working as well. I already wrote hesitating to buy a further one actually, but I love the charger because of the PD function. A few years ago, I had a failure rate as you and the Neo and the ISDT PD60. 4 out of 5 didn't work. Wow, that's terrible. Got my money back. Bought 3 from Amazon, 2 from Banggood. Yeah, the whole B6 thing, guys, listen. It's been about 3 weeks right now. I have not heard back from SkyRC. So all my advice at this point, don't walk away from these, run. Just stay away from them. I don't see any value in these chargers right now. If they come back and work on their problems, maybe I'll change my point of view, but the way I feel about it right now, just avoid them. I would strongly advise against the B6 Neo at this point in time. They did send me a note. I did tell them I'd be happy to help. And I offered my willingness to be able to work with them and help figure out what the heck is going on. But I haven't heard back from them, and it has been a full 3 weeks at this point in time. So don't know what to say, man. Just avoid the B6 Neos. That's all I can say. All right, Big Clips 718 says, can the TX16S do and save multiple trims depending on the flight mode? The answer to that is yes. And by the way, it's kind of odd. This week I got a lot of questions about flight modes. I'm not sure what's going on. Are you guys in cahoots out there? There's a video somewhere I should know about. I do want to show you guys real quick, in case you didn't know, I brought a radio up, and let's do the overhead cam so you can see. I did want to show you guys the idea of how you can manipulate your trims in flight modes, and I'll zoom in a little so you can see it. Let's just kind of zoom in just a touch here. And I'm on my flight mode screen, and I want to point out, I had to get my pointer, don't judge me. All right, flight modes. By default, this is what flight modes looks like. Notice that all of these flight modes say =0, =0, =0. What that's telling you is use trims from flight mode 0. So if you go into a different flight mode, and we'll just set one up. I'm just going to set up one flight mode. We'll call it, I'll use my SD switch down, and there we go. So you can see I'm toggling back and forth between flight modes with my SD switch, okay? So in flight mode 0, I'm going to go back to my main screen. Okay, I'm going to move the aileron trim all the way over to the right-hand side because we're going to do an exaggerated movement, okay? So that's all the way over to the right-hand side. And if I move my flight mode into flight mode 2, you see that that trim is still there. Well, in fact, let's, just so we can be clear here, I'm going to give it a name. We'll go in here and we'll give it a name. We'll just call this FM2 so you guys can see it. Is it 2 or 1? I think it's 1. Come on, John, get with it here. Flight mode 1. And I'm going to go in this one and we'll name this FM0. I just want you guys to be able to see what's going on, so there's no confusion about it. Okay, so now we're in flight mode 1, and now we're in flight mode 0. Okay, so in flight mode 0, my trim is all the way over here to the right-hand side. Now I'm going to hit flight mode 1. See how that switches to flight mode 1? And my trim is all the way over here to the right-hand side. Now, the reason it does that is because in the flight mode setup, we have flight mode 1 set to use trim from flight mode 0, okay? You can go in here and say edit that, and let's say we'll go in here under flight modes, under trims, and we'll say I don't want to use the trims from flight mode 0. You have a couple of options. You can say I want to use my own plus whatever 0 is, or I want to use just trims from flight mode 1. So just to make it simple, I'll put all of these in flight mode 1, just like that. And we'll turn off 5 and 6 because it's just a habit for me at this point. And whoops, I got ahead of my skis. Now you can see in flight mode 1, I have =1, which means it's using trims from flight mode 1 only. Okay, so I'm going to back out, and now we're in flight mode 0 right here. Watch what happens when I go into flight mode 1. I'm going into flight mode 1 now, and look at the trim. See how it jumped back to the center? That's because it's using trims from flight mode 1. If I hit my T1 switch and go all the way to the left, what that means is in flight mode 1, my aileron trim is all the way over here. And in flight mode 0, it's all the way over here. So yes, the answer to the question is you can absolutely specify different trims for different flight modes. Now you might say, wait a minute, I was talking about flaps. Why are you talking about flight modes? Okay, fine. Let's say for argument's sake that for your flight mode, you're going to say, we'll call this call this flaps up. Whoops. We'll call this one flaps up. Flaps up. Okay, whoops, I typoed, of course. Flaps. Come on, John. Flaps up. There we go. There's flaps up. And we'll call this one flaps down. APSDN. Okay? So that's flaps down and flaps up. Now, the only change this really makes is we use the switch to manipulate the trim. Now, in your mixer, you would simply go into your mixer and say, I want, channel 6, whatever. We'll just click on this one. We'll call the source SD, and we'll call it flaps. APS. I got it right, spelled right. Okay. So now we look in our mixer and our outputs. Our SD switch now puts our flaps up and down or in the middle position. There's middle. Here's down. And I have it reversed. If you want to see me clear that up, we can do that. This is channel 6. We'll simply go in here and turn off the inversion. Okay. So now channel 6 right here, that's flaps down, flaps mid, flaps up. Okay. Now in our flight modes, we have SD down would be flaps down. We could add a third one for flaps mid if you wanted to, but the idea is that you can move this switch, it'll deploy your flaps and change your trim. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense to you. And the answer to the question is yes, you can absolutely use flight modes to manipulate your trims. So I thought that was a good question, and I don't know what's going on this week. I seem to be getting a lot more of that question about flight modes. I don't know what happened this week, but I have a couple different questions on flight modes. All right, next up, Navigator says, I remember the hand launch foamy. Oh, this was more of a question for you guys. The question was, look at the last one. He said, what is needed for foamies is a protective coating, but I just don't know what that is. I believe that I have seen a lot of people talk about using Minwax polyacrylic on their foam planes. I know for a fact, I used to see that discussed on the flight test planes, the foam board planes, Minwax polyacrylic to protect the paper. If you guys have a treatment on your EPO planes that protects your paint, and let's be honest with each other, we know EPO planes are subject to hanger rash on paint. We know that. That's a fact. So if you guys have a treatment, leave a comment after the video is over and let me know what it is. I recommended Minwax polyacrylic because I'm pretty sure I've heard that before, although I've personally never tried it. I've never tried it myself. So if you guys are aware of a treatment on EPO that works really well, leave a comment and share the information. I'd love to see what you guys know about protecting your paint jobs on EPO planes. Curious about that one. Or if you've got it, throw it in comments too. Okay. All right. So that was it from Navigator 7777777. Next up is Curtis LH9EG. Curtis. Nice to see a guy just normal flying around. I gave that one a heart. And the reason I gave that a heart is because, that was on the Tron 7 Maiden. And while I like flying helicopters, I'm clearly not a 3D helicopter pilot. I like messing around. But, the thing is that we just do the best we can. And I thought that was such a nice comment because obviously I'm doing the best I can. If I could fly any better, I would. If I could do Smack 3D, I would show you. But, I work on it. I try. So I just thought that was such a nice comment just to say, hey, man, I appreciate you just out flying around, doing your thing, having fun, showing us the airplane or the helicopter. That was just a nice comment. So thank you, Curtis. I appreciate you. That was very thoughtful. Nice, pleasant comment to see that. And, that's the thing about the hobby. You do you. You go out. Don't worry about what other people are doing. Just go out and have fun. Go fly something. You hear me say it after every video. Go fly something. Go have fun. That's what it's all about at the end, right? It's just enjoying model aviation. Victor hit the tip jar, man. Thank you, Victor. I appreciate you. Thank you very much. Hello from Jacksonville. Well, hello from Central Florida, Orlando. Okay, Papa Shorty says, yeah, on a good day, 70%. My editing is repeating myself. On another note, would this glider be a good setup from a beginner plane? Or I think he meant to say step up. Yeah, step up from a beginner plane. And I gave this one some thought, and I think the answer to this is yes. When it comes to gliders, I'm not a huge, I don't know much about soaring or thermals or, how they set up gliders to be highly efficient or any of that business. But What I can say about flying the limited number of gliders that I have, including stuff like the ASW-28, the Consendo, the MOA, and I'll be flying the Fox, is that they are pleasant planes to fly. They're like low stress planes to fly. So if you're out there and interested in moving from, say, a trainer setup into something a little bit, like a mid-wing or a low wing or whatever, a glider wouldn't be a terrible one. The one thing that I would say about a glider, and I know there are some athletic gliders. Don't mistake what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is that most of the gliders that I've flown, they're not overly athletic. Like, you don't compare a glider or a motor glider or a power glider, which some wise guys say is an airplane with a motor. Fine. But I don't compare those to things like the Extreme Flight Yak or the Extra 260. They're not the same thing. They're not that athletic. That's not to say they can't be athletic, right? That's not to say they can't do maneuvers, they can't do rolls and loops. They can, but they're not as athletic or nimble by design, right? They got great big wings, and that's not what they're meant to do. They're meant to be soaring devices or cruisers. So while I would say, yeah, the gliders or the light wing loading craft, whatever you want to call them, they can be a decent second plane because they tend to be very stable, very easy to hand launch, very visible in the sky, very docile in the sky, but they're not high strung, right? They're not high maintenance. So they don't get kind of crazy in the air. And one other thing that I will say that kind of surprised me about flying gliders or power gliders or motor gliders or whatever, airplanes with motors with big wingspans, whatever you wise guys want to call it, is that they tend to float down the runway quite a bit. You better have some kind of braking mechanism like Crow in order to slow them down and help create some drag, because they do like to coast. So just keep that in mind. They tend to float, and that's the nature of a glider, right? That's the point. David Knut says, Minwax on foam board profile F22 works well for water sealing. Landing in dewy grass just beads up. Yeah, I remember that about the flight test planes. What about the EPO? What are you guys using to protect paint on EPO planes? That's what I'm curious about, without adding crazy amounts of weight. Robert says they are so docile. Yeah, they are. They're very, I guess the best way I can describe, if you've never flown a glider, is they fly with purpose. You kind of have to push on the stick and it moves with purpose. Spin launch glide, longer flight time too with gliders, which is good for learning. Yeah, that's for sure. The Consendos, I can tell you that I've seen guys out there flying things like a Consendo for 20 minutes at a crack with a 2200 milliamp hour battery. So you're not looking at a big, heavy battery setup or expensive battery setup. You're just out there with a lightweight, low cost battery setup, and you can fly for quite a while. And you're right. Spin launch glide is 100% correct about that. Stick time matters. So if you're learning and you're moving, from one format to the next, stick time does make a difference. No question about it. So anyway, Papa Shorty, to answer your question, I'd say, yes, they are good step ups from as a second plane, with the caveats mentioned, right? You're not going to learn probably real strong aerobatic skills on a glider. Not to say you can't do it, but if you want to learn aerobatics, you might look for something that's a little more sport oriented, something without quite the wingspan, something with a little more aileron, elevator authority, that kind of thing. Now, that's what I'd say. Rogers RC Aviation says, I've used automotive clear coat. Worked fantastic, but be sure to add bumper flex additive or it'll be a mess. Probably would crack, right? Or be difficult to apply. Bumper flex additive. Interesting. Yeah, I'm interested in these comments. Keep them coming. If you guys know, what are you using to protect your EPO on your EPO paint on your EPO planes? Interesting stuff. All right, the next question is from Jamie Hill. He says, I have all my switches set up to play sound, but they don't work when I connect to a drone. All right, guys, listen. This one, I have 2 points to make on this. Number one, it doesn't matter when you create a special function on your radio. It doesn't, if it's done right, and I'll turn a radio on and we'll take a look at it. We'll take a look at this thing and see what's going on here. But if you go in your model setup, and you create a special function, call it SF1, and I'm going to use my trigger SD down, and we're going to do play a track, and we just pick a track. It doesn't matter. And we'll do it not during setup. When you set that up, I'm just going to move my switch in the up position. 3D. See that? Oh, I'm kind of zoomed out. Sorry. I just set up a really quick little special function. When I activate that, the radio, this is one of those things, again, doesn't get a vote, right? I'm going to tell you right now, I've been using EdgeTX for a long time, OpenTX for even longer. And when you have this set up right and your volume is turned up and that track exists and you activate that switch, it's going to play the track. It doesn't matter. The radio, when it comes to special function doesn't care if you're connected to the model or not. That's not material. It doesn't matter. If you have it set up like this, where you have a switch, play track, and a track that exists, and your volume is turned up, make sure your volume is not turned down, right? But if your volume is turned up and you hit that switch, it's going to play a track. It doesn't get a vote. And if it does have a vote, you have much bigger problems. But the second part to this question is, for these types of questions, get on Discord. YouTube is useless for this kind of thing. We've got a great Discord, great group of guys that can help you out. You can take pictures, share your screenshot, talk in live, real time what's going on. Just get on Discord. And Robert, post a link if you don't mind, or David, put a link to Discord if you guys don't mind for me. Guys, get on Discord. I just can't stress it enough. YouTube is not the place to ask these questions. And, you know, I know he's new. Jamie Hill's new. I haven't seen a question from him in the past before, but I can tell you guys, man, just get on Discord. These questions are so much easier to handle on Discord. It's a better platform. But with that said, if you got to configure right, the radio doesn't get a vote. It's going to play the sound. So you got something else going on there. All right. Question 10, Jimmy Doolittle says, nice. This is a great starter tutorial for what looks to be a fantastic fly barless. I've been waiting for this. I may have to swap out my icons for this. Glad to continue to be a Patreon supporter of your work. Well, Jimmy, thank you very much. I appreciate you. And again, more interested in this setup. One thought that I had, because these GPSs are a little spendy, keep in mind, if you create a scenario where your GPS is removable, you could move it from helicopter to helicopter rather than putting one on every single helicopter. The Spirit FBL itself is price competitive. It's a little more expensive than Icon by the tune of about $40. But it's a very good fly barless. It's got a nice metal case. The configuration seems to work quite well. Not too hard to use. So keep that in mind. The Spirits, I'm going to be keeping an eye on Spirit, and I'll continue to work with them. I've got some icons. I'm not going to switch them all out because the icons do work. But for the aircraft that I might want to use a GPS on, the Spirit seems to be a pretty good option. So I appreciate Jimmy. I appreciate you're a patron. And on that note, I do want to invite you, if your budget allows, patreon.com/RC video reviews. I've got a tier for $3 a month. If you want to help out, you like what you learn on the channel, you want to help me keep bringing new stuff. Here's one. You like this kind of stuff showing up on the channel where I make the stuff up and go out and experiment. It's the patrons who help me do this, right? So I just wanted to give a shout out to my patrons, say thank you guys. And by having, if you get on patreon.com, that's what allows me to come up with this stuff. I use the money that I make on the channel for the channel. I pour it all back into the channel. I do stuff like this. I find stuff like that. I do the testing and I bring it to you guys and show you how I'm doing it. So if you'd like to help out, patreon.com/RC video reviews. I've got a tier for $3 a month. Appreciate your support. And if not, I understand that too. We all have our budgets and our crosses to bear, but if you want to help, that's a good way to do it. Let's see. Rogers RC Aviation says, I got an H1 GPS fly barless on my Trex and it's freaking awesome. I've heard about that H1. It's another one I wanted to check out. And I don't know if Fred's still here. He's probably sleeping because we haven't been talking about helicopters the whole time. But when I first put mine in return to home mode, Fred's like, man, be careful. That's been crashing the H1s. I don't know, right? I'm not saying that from a personal point of view. I am glad to hear that your H1 has been working for you. That's cool. I'd be curious to know how your return to launch has been working for you. And that is another one that I've been kind of interested in. I might check that one out as well. So thanks for the report. I am kind of interested in that one too. So more to come. There's a lot more to come. All right, next question. This one is from Ed Cleveland. I bet that's Ed Cleveland, maybe. I don't know, 402. I always take a quick photo. This is a great comment. I always take a quick photo of the before state. So he's talking about the radio swap that I did when I put the blue case on the pocket, or maybe more importantly, I took the guts from the pocket and put them inside the blue case. He says, I always take a quick photo. I wanted to share this one with you because out of all the electronics work that I've done over the years on this channel, if I do it on camera, I've got a photo. And it never occurred to me to say, take a picture. And that's a great comment by Ed. Take a picture of your stuff before you start gutting stuff, right? Go in, take a photograph, and that way, and take a couple photographs from different angles. Take close-ups of how things are lined up, where your wires are plugged in. It's a great comment. I should have said that in all of my break teardown videos. You got to take photos, and it really helps before you get started. That way, when you get to the end, if you can verify your work, and if you get confused about something, you don't have to go hunt on the internet for something. So great comment, Ed. Thanks for sharing. Great advice. 100% agree. Take a picture, and before you get started breaking stuff down, and that way you'll be in good shape in case you forget something or it doesn't go together quite right. You get a little bit of help. So let's see. Roger says, dude, the return to home in mind saved my butt. I'm glad to hear that. I literally lost sight of my heli. That's why I wanted it. I thought it was down, hit return to home, didn't hear anything, went inside my house, almost cried. But it came home, huh? And some of them have return to home with landing, so they can land as well. Kevin says, RCVR Patreon is the best RC investment I've made. Well, Kevin, I appreciate that. And by the way, just so you guys know, the patrons get like early access to stuff. So today, the Futura Jet, I expect that Futura Jet to sell out. I think that's going to sell out. I think once that starts hitting the YouTube channels like mine and people get wind of it, it's going to sell out because it has a lot of promise. I just want you guys to know the patrons got a little bit of early warning. You know, I put the video, I told them it was going to post. I gave them the link for the jet. I gave them the coupon code. I did hear somebody say the coupon code didn't work, which is unfortunate. I don't know why. I'll see if I can ask about that, but I did give them the link and the information before everyone else did. And I do that because that's a little perk of being a patron. You get a little advance notice on these things. So just another little benefit of being a patron. You get to see what's coming first. Rogers RC Aviation says, went to the store about an hour later. My heli was in the driveway 1 foot from where I took off. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Man, lucky. All right, let's see. I think that might be the last question. Do I have another one? Nope, one more. Oh, this one. Tremander. Sorry, I'm sure I'm butchering that. I apologize. Not my intention. I can't say it. Tremainer, I guess. He says, I have two ER5A RXs and flash, both using the PWM header pin, channels 2, 3. So the PWM pins do work. You have to hold down the boot button on top. So that is true on the ER5, but not the ER6 or the 8. Okay. On the ER6 and 8 series, they separated the UART function from those pins. And I even mentioned that in the video. That's why the Radio Master stuff doesn't suffer from that noise or the uncommanded, like the data on pin 2. That's why the Radio Masters don't have that problem, because their UART flash mechanism occurs via the UART on the ER6 and ER8. So keep that in mind. He's right about the ER5, and I actually have a video on the channel for the ER5s, but that's also why I did a video for the ER6 and ER8. It's because it's done differently. It is not flashable by pin 2 and 3 on the ER6 and 8. Okay, so got to check our information here and make sure we're giving out good gouge. The ER5 true comment, pins 2 and 3, ER6 and ER8, no, you got to use the UART. Okay, just keep that in mind. Robert says, just seeing the rat's nest would be worth being a pay. Oh, Robert. Yeah. If you guys remember last week, we were talking about my field box, and I was asked, I said I wasn't going to show it in public because I didn't want to hear about it. And then one of the patrons said, maybe a patron perk. And I said, okay. So I actually did do a post. The patrons got to see the inside of the box with all the wiring and all the crazy rat's nest wiring that I do inside my field box. They got to see it. That's inside information for the Cool Kid Club. Anyway, patreon.com/RC Video Reviews, $3 a month, man. It's Starbucks. All right. Let's see. I think that is the last question. It is. Okay. So we can move back to the desktop now. Let's go back to the desktop and we'll see what's next. We can't have the camera not have something in frame. How about that radio? Doesn't that look sharp? The carbon fiber with the AG01s, man. This Mark II, this is my Express LRS radio. I really wanted to see what would happen flying with Express LRS only at 250 milliwatts. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, you can take this radio out of my cold dead hands. The only way I'm giving this one up is if they come up with a better one. Screen up top, Radio Master. Come on, screen up top. We're counting on you. Screen up top, brighter, a little bit more audio noise, you know, not noise, but a little bit amplification on the audio circuit. I really have my fingers crossed for the next iteration of whatever the Radio Master is. But until then, this is definitely my, just love it. I love Express LRS, love EdgeTX, love my TX16S. Cold dead hands, man. You will get this out of my cold dead hands. Great radio system right here. And for the money, sorry, you can't beat it. You just can't beat it. Absolutely the best combo in radio control that you can get right now. TX16S, Express LRS, EdgeTX 2.9.0. Awesome. Awesome stuff. All right. That's it for Q&A. Next is coming up. I'm going to check comments and then we're going to finish up the video. Robert says, again, John, congrats on 30K. Thanks, Robert. Yeah, we went over 30K last week. It's been good. And there is, we're still growing, still growing. We've added a couple hundred users since then. And I appreciate every one of you for being part of the journey. Dan Griffith said, I've seen a lot worse wiring. Well, thanks, Dan. I appreciate that. Boy Scout effort, right? A for effort, E for effort. Rogers RC says, I've been on the fence about ELRS, but almost ready to jump. My TX16S will need the external module because 4-in-1, what's the extra benefit? Yeah, the 4-in-1. So in my case, all my fixed wing, I'm almost 100% converted. All my Express, all my Extreme Flight, all my Skywing, all my main flying planes all have Express LRS. The only ones that don't are some of the planes that I don't take to the field very often, like my stick, for example. That one doesn't come out. I need to make that conversion, but that's about it. Pretty much all, my Grim Reaper, that needs an Express LRS module. I need to add that one because the Grim Reaper needs to go fly again. But yeah, I've completely converted to, for all of my daily flyers, I've completely converted to Express LRS, and I am running the internal module on this one. So 250 milliwatts, right? And part of the reason for that, I was talking with Rob. If you guys want to know the truth of it, I was talking with Rob, and as you guys know, when you turn on dynamic power, you can set a limit. You can go in and say, I want this to go up to 1,000 milliwatts or whatever, 250, 500, whatever you want it to be. And I was talking to Rob about it. Normally, like, look, if you need dynamic power and you've got 1,000 milliwatts, set it for 1,000 milliwatts, right? Doesn't that make sense? So that's what I did. I used to set it at its peak, but I wanted to try it on this radio, setting it at peak at 250 milliwatts because that's all it does. But it's also passive cooling. No fan on this one, so it's back to being quiet. No fan. And I can tell you that I do look at my data regularly. If you're on Discord, you know this because I post my charts and graphs on Discord and I share what I see. So after I started flying with a 250 milliwatt version, the question was, what happens if the RQLY or one of the other triggers that Express LRS sees that forces the T-power to jump, what will happen? Well, of course it does what you'd expect. It jumps up to 250 milliwatts. But here's the deal. It jumps right back down just as fast. So if for whatever reason, the radio determines it needs a little more T-power, that's normally because, I don't know if Brian's still here. He can offer clarification, but it's things like the RQLY drops significantly or the signal to noise drops or the RSSI drops. If those things happen, then it automatically triggers a bump in T-power, right? And then as soon as it's happy with what it sees, it brings the T-power back down. So in my case, I figured, well, I'm going to see what happens if it only can go up to 250. I could have done that on an external module, I guess, but I wanted to do it with a Express LRS only radio because I think for me, this is the path forward. I can't see right now. There's nothing on the horizon, nothing in the market right now at this point in time that makes me think that I'll be switching off of this technology. Nothing. So that means I don't really need 4-in-1 anymore. Express LRS is all I really need. It's going to be in everything I've got. Anything I build from this day forward, it's going to be Express LRS. So that's why I switched. And that way I get rid of the module. I don't have the big second antenna on the back. Makes my configuration a little cleaner. And, I kind of like the carbon fiber faceplate too. I thought that was kind of cool looking. So anyway, that's new radio. That's what I'll be using going forward. All right, let's see. Rogers RC says, oh, Lord, show my age. I didn't even know how to get on Discord. You got to get on Discord, man. Discord is where it happens. Spin Launch Glide says the best benefit of Express LRS is just never having to worry about never having to worry about the radio connection. That's exactly what I'm saying, man. I don't think about the radio connect. I'll tell you, here's the truth of it. The only thing I worry about on Express LRS on the radio connection is the first flight. That's it. First flight. Once I get that plane up in the air, fly it around a little bit, and I know I'm over infant mortality, because infant mortality is a thing. You add heat, you add a little current. If something goes bad, you're generally going to see it fast. If you don't see it fast, it's probably going to be okay for quite a while. In theory. It's not always the case, but generally that's the idea. And I can tell you guys right now, once I get over that first flight with the Express LRS, that's it. When it comes to the radio connection I have with my planes, it's no longer a concern. It just works. And I'm not just blowing smoke up the Express LRS team's skirt either. I look at the freaking data. I look at the graphs. I post the graphs. I analyze the information. If there's something I see that I don't like, I ask questions until I do get it. So it works. So Spin Launch Glide, 100% correct, man. Once you're on Express LRS, that's it. Your worries about whether or not your radio is going to maintain a link with your plane, once you're over infant mortality, those questions are gone. They're gone. All right, that's it for comments. I think we're close to being able to wrap this one up. So let's take a look at what's coming up next. Obviously, the Futura jet, that's a big one. I'm super anxious to fly that plane. I hope it performs as good as it looks. I really have my fingers crossed on the power and on the flight time. I hope the flight time is there. I hope the power is there. If it is, that's a jet that I'll keep in my stable and I'll fly on a regular basis because it looks fantastic. So Futura jet, that one's coming up. Oh, look at the chat window. What is going on with the chat window here? What's happening? Chat window blanked out for a second. That was kind of odd. So Futura jet's coming up. The FMS Fox obviously is coming up. We're going to do that one. And I'll tell you guys, the next plane I have is the PC-21 Pilatus from FMS. Now, if you've been around for any length of time, you might say, John, I think you already did a Pilatus video, and you wouldn't be wrong. I have. But we've also added like 15,000 subscribers since then. So I know a lot of people that are new to the channel don't go back and look at all the old videos. So for that reason, when FMS asked me to take a look at the PC-21 again, I thought, you know, it makes sense. That's a good airplane. I'm going to go ahead and do it. And the reason for that is if you've already seen the prior video, I doubt you'll see anything new. But if you haven't seen the prior video, or if you want to see maybe how my review process has changed since those first videos, keep an eye on the channel. We'll be doing a PC-21 as well. So the PC-21 is coming. Okay, so we got the jet, the PC-21. You'll get a first look video and a flight on that. And we're going to be doing the Fox video, Fox 2300 millimeter. And of course, the other one, the big one for me, is this little discharger. I am waiting on parts from Amazon for this to come in for me to be able to finish up both versions. So I'll have the small version. We'll be doing the big version as well. So the discharger video will be coming up as well. And also I'm still waiting for the X6. I do have another X6 inbound, so I can plug that into the discharger and use that for a controller on the heavy discharge. That's going to be the 30, 25 amp, 20 amp discharge. That's the controller for that one. So stand by. That's what's coming up on the channel. So I'm going to check comments one more time, and then we're going to shut this one down. Just touch this link, discord.com/. Yeah, if you guys want to get into Discord, join. The link is there. It's also in every video I post. Spin Lunch Glide says, but if getting into Discord feels too hard for you, settings, adjust the LRS receivers and models might be too much or could take some work. Yeah, maybe. It's not hard to get in Discord, guys. It's totally worth it. It is totally worth it. We have such a great community in there. Really nice people. It's a very pleasant place. We try and keep things very chill and relaxed. No drama, no high school nonsense. Everyone on our Discord is really very, very nice. Let's see. Robert says, go back and watch John's old videos and see how much has changed. Yeah, production has changed, man. The microphones. You guys want to hear a little secret? I'll let you in on a little secret. David just commented. I did a video some time ago, and I think it was a motor video. I was out in the garage, and I commented, I think it was during the video, something about lighting. And David said, yeah, get more lights. And that's when I really started to focus on production quality. I added lights, and then I started focusing on things like microphones and obviously eventually the camera. The camera's an expensive outlay. But yeah, all of those things eventually contributed to what I would consider higher production value. And certainly there is room for growth. I continue to try and improve on my production quality. But yeah, all that started back when David said, yeah, more lights. So yeah, it's changed quite a bit over time. Rambo Flight Ken says, looking at all the previous videos is a prerequisite to being a Patreon member. You'll be quizzed on. Yeah. Well, thanks for that, Ken. Hey, the prior videos are fun. It's kind of fun to see how the channel's matured and how the production levels have changed over the years for sure. Kevin Blackwell says another great benefit of Discord is EdgeTX and the LRS devs are there to help you. That's right. They do pop in. They do pop in from time to time. So you can get some help from the real experts out there. All right, guys, that wraps up the Pilot Jam for the 2nd of September. I appreciate you. Thanks for hanging out with me on your Saturday night. I will probably be flying tomorrow with no cameras. Just going to take a couple airplanes, maybe the M4, and just have a little bit of a down day. Just me and the airplanes. And then on Monday, it's a holiday, Labor Day. So it looks like Dave and I will be heading out on Monday, and we'll get some video for you guys. And hopefully we'll get the Jet, we'll get the Fox, and we'll get the Pilatus on film for you. And those videos will be following up very soon. So you can chat on Discord. I do, it depends. Sometimes if there's chat, I was on chat last night with the guys on Discord. Depends. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. Jeff H says, arrived late and been in catch-up mode. Father's Day in Oz. Well, happy Father's Day, Jeff. David says, still love the video of your daughter asking you to play with your vet. Yeah, isn't that funny? That's fun. That's fun stuff. All right, guys, that's all I've got for tonight. Thanks for joining me on your Saturday night. I hope you had a good time. Make sure you get out there and fly something. And don't forget to subscribe. Only 60% of you subscribe. 60%. 40% of you watch the material, don't subscribe. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Doesn't cost anything. And that's all I've got for tonight. Have a great weekend. Thanks for joining me. Go fly something.